We have now a topic that's so widely publicized but leaves so many open questions. That's the right topic after our coffee break. We'll have Mr. Nan Jinlin, who's an equity partner at Zhong law firm, speak about the One Belt, One Road and its opportunities. Mr. Nan is one of the leading lawyers in overseas construction infrastructure practice area in China, has successively led and participated in dozens of overseas construction infrastructure projects. He specializes in providing comprehensive legal advices on the whole process of overseas investments, construction infrastructure, and dispute resolution. And I look forward to listening to his presentation and learning more about the One Belt, One Road initiative and the opportunities that it will bring, hopefully, soon to our companies. Please join me on stage.
Good morning, everyone. It's my honor to be here to share some of the experience in the past 20 years of my professional life. And you know that just now Mark's speech reminded me that 20 to 25 years ago, China was developing infrastructure in a large scale. And for that start of development of infrastructure, make China now a green land for the overseas investment, which turn out sufficient living facilities, equipment for the development of the society. Now, China has one road, one belt, and which will extend the infrastructure construction overseas. Under such a scheme, and there are 54 countries on one road, one belt, which started by Chinese authority. Under such a initiative, that China move its extra productivity over these underdeveloped countries and help these countries to build up their infrastructure. And maybe some people may ask why we should go out to these countries. Because these countries have big population and they have less developed infrastructure. Under such a situation, China go out to the work, help them to make the infrastructure facility well for the development of the economy. And for the beginning of these go-out projects, Chinese company, particularly these construction companies, do EPC contract. But as limited financial support by the authority, they have to borrow money overseas, so that at the stage of the EPC project plus finance. Nowadays, because of these countries has very limited borrowing ability, which actually restrict or limited their ability for the development of the infrastructure. Under such a situation, that these countries need investment and borrowing money for the infrastructure development projects. Then this picture shows that the area which one road, one belt countries which are covered by this initiative, 64 countries. And facing now, that is what I said just now, facing the bottleneck of the infrastructure, which is monetary, lack of equity investment. Because of these sponsors' lack of equity investment, and so that they need some investment from the overseas. That is the opportunity for investment bank funds to do the investment in these projects. And the fourth one is limited borrowing ability. Because of the limited borrowing ability, as you know that each country actually has a ceiling of borrowing ability by International Monetary Fund. Under such a situation, they need the requirement, they need the investment overseas. And underdeveloped infrastructure sector, energy and transportation. As for my working area, I always working in power plants, thermal, hydro, wind, solar, and highway, and railway, airport, water treatment plants. All these actually are infrastructure projects. So under such a situation, overseas investment is so necessary. And also this kind of situation provide opportunities for funds such as Silk Road Fund, Asia Pacific, Asia European funds, Africa funds, and investment bank to do the initial investment as an equity shareholder to the project, so that they can get benefit and profits together with the sponsor or promoter. And normally, there are two ways of investment. One is that the investment bank may do the investment, a small portion of investment as equity together with sponsor. That is one way. Another way, in China, Chinese companies normally set up a Hong Kong company, subsidiary, 100% hold subsidiary in Hong Kong, and use the Hong Kong company vehicle to do the EPC contract and investment. And this Hong Kong company, here I say that HCO, Hong Kong company means that this vehicle used as the EPC contractor in the future for the overseas project, like a project in Nairobi or in Philippines, in Kazakhstan, anywhere in the world. And so that this Hong Kong company sign EPC contract with the project company, and also Hong Kong company put investment to that company, project company, because that project company, the local sponsor also takes some share of the company, which normally takes 20 to 30%. Within 20 and or 30% of the equity investment, the investor and the EPC contractor, or the investment bank may take some of the investment amount, capital amount in the project. And the advantage of this is that in the future, if the investor needs to buy out, then they can sell the shares in the Hong Kong company. So it's the cost of such transference is lower, and it's easier to get the shares sold out. Under such a situation, also have a tax advantage over that. Also, as an equity shareholder, they can control some of the risks in the project. And another way is that the project sponsor may sign agreement with the bank, investment bank, or fund investor that after commercial operation of the project, the sponsor will purchase back with certain conditions and profits or margins over the investment amount. This is another way of buyout. As I mentioned, that a project the project equity source normally 20 to 30%. Sponsor will take some, and some financial institutes and some funds and other investors take total of them. All of them together make up 20 to 30%, and the rest of them will be provided by financial institute. Under such a situation, the investor, no matter what kind of investor, actually takes the second mortgage or second collateral right behind the financial institutions who provide 70 to 80% of the money for the project. And in order to control the risks, normally we have Sinosure or export credit insurance company to cover the risks. Which risks? Political and commercial risks. 100% of political risks and 90 or 95% of the commercial risks. In case that the sponsor or the product company breach of the contract, then we have someone to make the payment, which is Sinosure or export credit companies. So whatever and whenever the investor do the investment, the biggest issue is how to control the risks. How control the risks. In order to control the risks, we need to recognize where the risk exists. And under such a situation for equity, actually there are two paths. One is equity investor, one is project financer, or the financial institute who provides the finance for the project. For the equity investor, actually the biggest risk is EPC contract completion. So far as the EPC contractor can fulfill the contract obligation and make the project into commercial operation as promised in the contract, then everything, all the project can turn out steady cash flow to make the payment to the financial institute and the investor, including the fund investor or the investment bank. So under such a situation, normally we control EPC contractor risk as a kernel risks. So as you know that EPC contractor also provides some equity investment in that project. Under such a situation, make the investors feel more confidence on the project. And for the creditor, actually the creditor have someone guarantee who is a Sinosure or export credit company. Of course, that costs a lot of money. And also the creditor has the right to step in case that a sponsor or the project organizer or operator fail to manage the project well, the creditor may step in to take over the right to manage the project. That is another important risk control method. And in order to make the speech to be finished in the time schedule, actually what I'm today's talking points are first, the investment bank can't do the investment in project so far as the project company has some equity investment from the EPC contractor. That is one point. Second point about the bankability of the financer or financial institute. That's the second. Third one is on the Sinosure insurance or export credit insurance. So far as get the insurance, it's quite feasible and bankability and possible for the investor, either founding investor or the investment bank to do the investment. And for the buyout method, we have two. One is to sign agreement with sponsor, and after the project come into commercial operation, and transfer the share to the sponsor, and with the agreed cost plus interest, and the other one is that sell the shares, such as in the Hong Kong company And also the Hong Kong company in the future can issue bond or even IPO in the future. So that's the main structure of what we are doing and what we have done before. And that's the main things that I like to share with you. And if you have any question, you are very much welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, good.
Thank you. I think it's a very interesting presentation. My name is Eduard. I'm from InterChina. I have two questions. One, the nature or the origination of these projects, is it usually driven by the state sponsors, financial sponsors, like a Seed Road Fund or a Asia Infrastructure Fund, or is it driven by the companies who are going to execute the project, like a CCCC? That's the number one.
Yeah. And this is a good question. Normally, the sponsor would be the local company of the project. And the fund company or the fund always come together with the sponsor. And suppose the equity investment is 30%, maybe the sponsor take 20%. And the 10% will divide, split in two parts. 5% is from the fund or investment bank. The other 5% normally we will ask the EPC contractor to take in case they fail the project, and that EPC contractor still is the shareholder of the project company. So normally we split in this way, but more or less the sponsor must take some cash, including the license, approvals, government approvals, all these documentations, land, these things into a one whole package.
And the other 70% of the equity is what? Usually is like a regional state companies from Kazakhstan or Philippines?
It's case by case. Normally, you know that normally infrastructure projects actually public-related projects which provide services to the public. Normally, the responsibility is from the government, but nowadays PPP, it's an international version. More and more private people, private companies, private investment come into the role as the government. So they sign concession agreement with the authority. After getting the concession agreement done, then they can start the project and invest by private part. Normally, you know that such a project normally do not sponsored by authority or government because the government already has very limited ability, borrowing or financing. If they have the ability, why ask some people to do the investment?
The second question is about the percentage of localization of the execution of the project. Mm-hmm. I heard different numbers, like some people told me the Chinese government will not encourage projects that do not use at least 70% of local components, like local Chinese-made materials or local Chinese engineering firms. Other told me 60, other people told me 80. Do you have a feeling on this? Is there any written indication?
It seems, this question shows that you are very experienced in this area. I'm so glad. Normally, it's stand on the here or it's much higher. Normally, if the financial supported by Chinese authority or Chinese financial institute, that is one thing. Second, the project needs a Sino-Shore insurance. Then they need to calculate how much element contained in the project from China, which just now you said 70% of the facility, 70% of the item should be contained from China, such as material equipment. But since gradually changing, the percentage actually reducing. You know that because of the Sino-Shore involvement, Sino-Shore is a government sponsored insurance company. It's a governmental organization which is supported by each financial Ministry of Finance. So that under such a situation, Chinese Sino-Shore company support Chinese companies to go out to do the project. That's each country has the same policy all over the world. I think that's the answer to your question. So now the percentage is climbing down because of the more internationalization or globalization. Thank you very much for this question. Okay.
If there's no further questions, I'd like to thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
And I certainly learned a lot, lots of details that many companies don't know, and I'm glad that you were here to share all your insights. And as you rightly said, we'll have a very experienced speaker afterwards. It will be Eduardo, who just asked the question. And thank you very much for your presentation. We'll see you later.